Hey everybody, how's it going? So I read something that was fairly depressing in the news this morning, and also I don't know how to I don't really don't know how else to put this at this point. I'm probably going to regret my phrasing, but at this point, I think that one of the biggest drivers of anti-vaccine sentiment are just headlines, like just basic headlines from mainstream news outlets. So this here says from Bloomberg, CDC tells even vaccinated to avoid cruises, shares tumble. The cruise line group calls the agency's decision perplexing, and Carnival Cruise Corp says that they have made no changes to its schedules. So I got my vaccine back in April of this year. I figured if vaccination is the way out of this pandemic, I will do my part to try and stop the spread and to try and get past this altogether. And what's really interesting to me is that the more news that I read, the more the conspiracy, if you want people to not believe conspiracy theorists, it's really important to not create the circumstances for them to be proven right repeatedly over and over and over again. And I was more than happy to do my part to try and get rid of this, but it really does not seem like this is actually happening. So it says that the shares of the cruise operators fell after U.S. health officials said that they should avoid cruises even if you are fully vaccinated. And what the article mentions is that on these cruises, they require proof of vaccination to get on the ship. So we are talking about environments with a 100% vaccination rate, not a 20, not a 40, not a 60, not a 100% vaccination rates. And even in areas where you are around people who are all 100% fully vaccinated, they are saying avoid that. So I want you to think about this. And again, to be clear, I'm ignorant when it comes to cruises. I have never been on a cruise. I have no desire to be on a cruise. I'll likely never book a cruise. So I don't understand all the complexities of a cruise ship. But it's very interesting to me when you have this being put as the guidance for a cruise ship. So what does that mean for clubs in New York City that you can easily have over 1,000 people in? What does this mean for Disney World, where you'll have indoor events or rides, where you'll have hundreds of people, sometimes in an indoor environment, not just outdoors, or outdoors, but they are literally all right next to one another, very similar to an environment that you'll be in on a cruise ship? If you're telling people that even with a 100% vaccination rate, that they should avoid a particular form of recreation, what does that mean for every other form of recreation? And what do you actually do going forward? It says the CDC raised its travel alert on cruise ships Thursday to the highest risk level, saying COVID-19 spreads easily between people abroad and in close quarters. Even people who are fully vaccinated may be at risk of getting and spreading the virus, the agency said. And again, this is very, very obvious just looking at my own city's case rate. So this is what it looked like. Again, you had cases in the beginning. Then you had the surge in cases in the winter of last year where you had 5,000 or 6,000 a day at the peak. And then everybody started to get vaccinated. Then you had an over 70% vaccination rate. And with an over 70% vaccination rate in New York City, you have 22, 35, 40,000, 50,000 cases a day, which is crazy. Because again, back here, when this started going up to 5,000 or 6,000 cases a day, this is with a 0% vaccination rate. The only people who were vaccinated at this point were people who took it prior to it getting FDA approval. This over here is after a 70% vaccination rate in New York City, and it honestly just looks like GameStop circa January of 2021. So again, the question that I have at this point is, what do you actually do with that information? The people from the cruise group said that this is particularly perplexing since the number of cases identified on ships make up a slim minority of the total population on board, far fewer than on land. No setting can be immune from this virus, the group said, which I agree with. No setting appears to be immune from it. Again, most of these New York City COVID cases that we're getting, when we have 70,000 cases a day, or 40,000 or 30,000, whatever it is over here, cases a day in a city of about 8.5 million people, most of those people are on dry land. So, when he says no setting is immune from it, that is true. In an email, they said they don't plan to schedule any changes, and I completely understand that. One of the things I talked about in this video on Broadway COVID shutdowns over here, where I was looking at Mr. Clinton, and he actually made a meow at me, they were canceling performances due to COVID. And this is another environment where they require a 100% vaccination rate. To be clear, when I've talked about the vaccine mandate in New York City, when you enter an average small business or restaurant or deli and they say, do you have your COVID vaccine card? And I go, yeah, sure, let me show you. They're like, oh yeah, don't worry. I could literally show them a gas station receipt or something and they will be okay with it. With Broadway, they check your ID And then they check your card very closely. You cannot get into a Broadway show in New York City if you are not vaccinated. The crew, the actors, the staff, and the audience members are all fully vaccinated. And in spite of a 100% vaccination rate, many Broadway shows have completely shut down because of people testing positive. And in all these news articles, as I said, they don't even tell you what it is like. Again, is this a case of COVID where they tested positive and they don't even notice they have it because they're fully vaccinated? Or is this a case where they tested positive and they have a 103 fever and they are not able to perform in any way, shape, or form? If being vaccinated means that you can still spread the virus, you can still get the virus, then what do you do at that point? How do you move forward at that point? What is your way out of it? Or do you simply have no way out of it? And if there is no way out of it, do the people that say, or that were saying last year, listen, at some point, we just need to get on with our lives, the people that everybody were calling grandma killers and evil and having no sympathy or no empathy, do they truly have no sympathy and no empathy? Are they really grandma killers? Or are they people that simply looking at the landscape and recognizing that you cannot control a virus? It doesn't matter what political party you are. It doesn't matter what you decide to do. At the end of the day, a virus is going to do what a virus wants to do. And what are you going to do about it? If you're telling people, don't go on a vacation, even in an area with a 100% vaccination rate, what are we supposed to do? Because again, up until this point, you have heard people say, if only everybody got vaccinated, then we'd be able to move past this. But when you have environments that are only allowing fully vaccinated people, meaning you have a 100% vaccination rate, and the CDC comes out and says, don't go on that ship as a fully vaccinated person surrounded by other fully vaccinated people. Don't take that vacation as a fully vaccinated person surrounded by fully vaccinated people. Don't go to this Broadway show as a fully vaccinated person surrounded by fully vaccinated people. The question really has to be asked, at what point will people just say, screw it, I give up, and go on with their normal lives? What can you do about it? I mean, I like at this point, I really do think it is time for people to make a decision. If you are of the opinion that going about your normal life so long as COVID exists makes you evil, makes you a grandma killer, makes you this, that, or the other, like I really do think there is going to be a schism in the country between people who decide that they are going to not take part in any of these things, whether it is recreation, vacation, shows, outdoor socialization with other people, and people who decide that they are going to get on with their lives. If a 100% vaccination rate for a given area is not good enough, then what is? And are you willing to wait to figure that out? Are you willing to wait another 1 year or 2 years or 5 years or 8 years to figure out if COVID is going away? I was very excited to get the vaccine earlier this year because I was more than happy to do my part to try and end this. I got my vaccine in April. I did a video getting my vaccine in April, which most of the people in the comments that call me anti-vax will just usually glare over because it kind of cuts against their narrative that I'm an evil anti-vaxxer. I was happy to get it. I was happy to do my part to try and eradicate this shit for good. If everybody getting a vaccine means this is eradicated for good, then that's great. But that's not the reality that we appear to be living with. And I don't know a lot of people that are interested in not going about their lives about almost 2 years into this when they've done everything they are supposed to do. And I also wonder how you are going to continue to get, again, when you have people saying, listen, everybody needs to get vaccinated. Everybody needs to get vaccinated. How dare you not get vaccinated? And then you have news headlines that say, even if you are fully vaccinated, do not enter this cruise ship with fully vaccinated people. You have to understand how that's going to raise a serious effing eyebrow for the people that are skeptical about the vaccine. And when you have people saying, listen, I don't understand why there are vaccine skeptics. Why do you have all these dumbass anti-vaxxers? You are posting headlines like this every single day. Every single day I see a new headline for a new industry or a new restaurant or Broadway or cruises or whatever else that is shutting down in spite of the fact that they require fully vaccinated people to enter. Now, yes, it is going to reduce rates of hospitalization. That's one of the many reasons that I chose to get it. And it's one of the reasons that people like my dad got it, who, again, he's in his 70s. He's had 7 surgeries. He is not in the health he used to be, even though he started hitting the gym up again. There's a reason that people get it. But if people are skeptical, you have to understand on some level that skepticism is being driven by this type of policy, by these types of news headlines, where people are wondering, what is the point of getting this if we're not getting past it anyway? Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments down below. That's it for today. And as always, I hope you learned something. Clinton? Clinton? Clinton. You're not getting a greenie if you don't say anything, boy. You got to say something to get a greenie. That doesn't count, boy. Anyway, see you all in the next video. Bye now.